All right, so we're going in it today without the intro screen because it's doing weird things.
Gotta love those technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, the technical difficulty is just me and technology.
Well, okay, no, I would disagree with that because we did not touch it since the last episode, and for whatever reason, it's fucking up now.
It is true. It's doing weird things that haven't been present in the past.
Right.
So, but that's okay. There's just no intro screen. That seemed to be causing the issues today. So here is the intro.
Ta-da.
Our faces.
Sorry.
Yeah, me too. Very much. Let's go ahead with the sponsors. Thank the sponsors: Unscripted Studios, James Thomas Productions, and Pixel Popcorn Media Group. As we go with Dapper Devils episode number 200.
Okay.
And 34.
It's 10.
10, episode 10. Diez.
Oh, you're asking the wrong person. I never took a language in high school.
Oh, I was going to try to be smart because we're going to be talking about movies today, and Oppenheimer is one of them, and he spoke like 400 languages or something.
Yeah,
Everywhere he went, he learned the language.
He was a smart motherfucker.
He was, and so I thought I would be clever, but I wasn't. I wasn't very good. So today we're going to talk about Oppenheimer and Barbie.
Both were fantastic movies
side by side. Yes, they were.
For very different reasons.
What's interesting before we get going on either one of them, I looked this up this morning because I was curious to see, and I told you this yesterday, that I think these two movies for me bring back a sense of Hollywood actually like making a good film.
Absolutely.
For the sake of making a film.
Because we were kind of talking, and it's like, if we look at the last, call it 10 or 15 movies released in the last year and a half to 2 years, I would guarantee at least 7, maybe 10 are just big blockbuster movies, like a Marvel movie or, like Jurassic Park.
There's something with Dwayne Johnson in it.
Exactly. Which, not to say that those are bad movies, but like, they're just, at this point, they're a dime a dozen. Like, I can't tell you the last Marvel movie I saw.
The Doctor Strange thing, maybe.
You know what? Yeah, because Spider-Man came out before that, right? That was December. Doctor Strange was like March.
I don't know.
Either way, that sounds right.
But yeah, so it seems like those movies are all very catered to the agenda of making money, which is fine.
Sure.
Obviously, if you're going to make a big budget movie, you
want it to make money,
to have a return on your investment.
Hasn't the last couple lost Disney money though?
Well, yeah. Their movies have lost money, and we'll see what happens with these two movies that we're talking about today. But what actually shocked me a little bit, and I think that there was probably like some sort of a coach's speech by Christopher Nolan when he approached the people that were cast into this movie.
Which, fantastic cast. Everyone in it was amazing.
Incredible cast, and I mean, deep cast.
Absolutely.
Like up to like 20 people that are really serious, relevant actors involved in this project. So that's why I was curious. And with all the visual effects and all of that.
Was so good.
That had $100 million budget.
Did you look that up? Or
I did look that up. I had to see this morning because I was curious to put a side by side of these.
Now, this is just the the special effects?
No, that's the budget.
Oh.
That's why I'm
for the whole movie?
That's why I'm telling you there had to be a coach's speech by Christopher Nolan saying,
Dude.
Look, if you buy into this project with me, we're going to win Academy Awards.
Right.
Do you want to be
That's even more impressive because all things considered, $100 million to make a movie is not a lot.
Especially, it's 3 hours long.
It's on film.
So it has a whole hour worth of more film than this other movie.
Yes.
And the cast is not...
Barbie had a good cast.
The cast in Barbie had a good cast, but it was definitely anchored by
Hollywood.
Margot Robbie and
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go. What do you think that budget was?
For Barbie?
Yeah.
It's hard to say now. So if Oppenheimer's 100 million, I'm going to say Barbie was... I'm going to say 150 or 210 million.
So they didn't put a defined number on it. It's 128 to 145 million.
Okay, but that alone tells me though that it's like you can do a lot with a little.
Yes, but I really believe that Nolan was selling something to the actors in this
movie.
Because
it is so good.
Just their salaries alone should have been probably 100 million.
Well, for sure.
And so anyway, With that being said, those movies side by side cost relatively the same amount of money, but are such polar opposites of each other
Absolutely.
that I'm curious to see how they do at the box office.
Well, yeah. Well, and I was telling you yesterday, I was reading that Barbie was doing exceptionally well. One, it is a good movie. I'm not trying to diminish it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was saying part of the reason was because people didn't want to sit through a 3-hour movie like Oppenheimer. So they were like, I'll see Barbie instead.
Yeah.
Which,
So
I mean, it's still a good movie, but
we'll start with Oppenheimer.
yeah, we saw that one first.
Yeah. And so I don't remember, because of the way that movie started for me, like it starts like swirling in fire and loud noises, and like, so I'm immediately drawn in and feel immersed in this movie. So I didn't even notice if they showed the cast members' names during the credit scenes or if there were credit scenes at all.
I don't think there was
recollect
actually.
that-
I don't think there was because I can't think of that either.
Okay.
But same thing. Like I was captured.
Yeah, you're in.
Start to finish. I was just like, ooh.
You're in, and then half of the movie is in color, half of the movie is in black and white.
I don't know if I'd say half, but a good portion for sure is black and white.
I'd be curious. That's something I forgot to look up. I wanted to break it down minute by minute in black and white, because to me the way he directed this movie is two movies.
Yes, absolutely.
One is The Man. You learn about Oppenheimer, the man.
Right.
And you learn about his
vision,
his
his
ascent
goals.
to the top of science.
Yeah.
And how his mind and the way that he saw things caused him to be the one that would understand how to create
Right.
an atomic bomb.
Right.
And it wasn't his goal. He just wanted to be the greatest physicist.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Jeff Goldblum quote from Jurassic Park, where it's like you spent all this time wondering if you could, not enough time to think if you should.
Right. And that's actually a dilemma that happens in the movie. You see that within the character of Oppenheimer, which Cillian Murphy absolutely crushed
it.
Yeah, he
Yes.
crushed it.
It was so he's already a good actor.
Yes.
But fuck, this was great.
Well, and you haven't seen Peaky Blinders?
I have not.
But if you take that side by side, there are times where I told you, sometimes you almost need subtitles to understand what he's saying in Peaky.
Well, sure.
And then you put him side by side with this character Oppenheimer that he plays in his very clear
American accent.
American voice. It's even more stunning because you're like, wow.
Yeah, no,
and he is from Ireland.
He is. He's Irish as shit.
Yeah, so he's also very Irish, coming with that American.
Right. Well, and then
Huge credit to him. I think he's going to get a big nod for it.
He better.
He has to be up for Academy Award.
Absolutely.
To me.
Well, and I would say like for this one for sure, at least for like best supporting actor, Robert Downey Jr. did a kick-ass job too.
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned the credit scene, because half of the movie, or an hour of it, I think, I'm watching it and I didn't know it was Robert Downey Jr.
Well, like I said the other day, the only reason I did was because I saw like a press junket where he was with Christopher Nolan, and I was like, oh, I didn't know he was in this movie. So that's why when I saw him, I was like, oh shit, okay. So I knew, but yeah.
So for most of that hour, I spent looking at him going, this Stanley Tucci looks weird right now. Like that's literally what I was thinking. And then
like Stanley Tucci did some hard drugs.
Yeah, like something happened to him, man. And then
he got some hair.
Realized that it was
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. I was like, oh, duh.
But no, dude, like everybody in that movie though, like Matt Damon is in it. He's fantastic.
His character is and okay. This is historical.
Yes.
This is actually like real.
This happened. These are real people.
And half the time I like movies like that. Half the time I need a certain amount of patience for it. And actually, before we went,
especially with a war film.
Yeah. And before we went, I was like, dude, I feel like the only way I'm going to be able to absorb and watch this in one go is at the theater.
Right.
Which I highly recommend just because of the sound.
Yeah, feeling everything, like when certain things are happening, like just the echo and like the vibration in your seat.
It's amazing.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
Like to me, like to go back to what you were saying as far as like, you know, like more of an original idea or like kind of back to filmmaking. This to me is where it's like, this is a cinematic experience. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to the movies because I like going to the movies, which that's totally fine. I like that too.
Oh, sure.
But like this one is like, you got to see this in the theaters. No matter, unless you have your own personal theater at home, it's never going to be the same.
Yeah, it's very impactful. The way that the sound is composed in the movie, which I give nod. I looked up the guy's name today, and I've never heard of him, but I guarantee that we'll see him some more. The guy who did the soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Do you remember his name or?
No, it sounded like I don't know,
All
whatever,
right.
but it was good. Very, very good soundtrack. And yeah, so the movie's broken down. You know, you're learning about Oppenheimer, all of the stuff that he did in the scientific community, and then he was like so revered by all scientists,
Right.
And he just wanted to absorb everything that he could. Like he literally did learn languages within a week.
He's one of those, he just wants to learn.
Yes,
And people like that are awesome.
And like, there's one part he was actually a huge womanizer. So
Well-
they present to you that he has all these character flaws.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they show that he is a human. Like he's
Yes.
not, oh my God, he's the best thing ever. And he can
Yes.
do no wrong. They're
Well-
like, he does a lot of wrong.
It's intentional dichotomy though, because you know the brooding theme of the movie is that he creates a rift for himself with Robert Downey's character Strauss, who happens to be in charge of the committee that he needs clearance for to be involved in security.
It was what? The Atomic Acceleration Committee?
Yeah,
Like,
AEC. Yeah. And so he created a rift on accident, really, because they show you this part in the movie very early on where Oppenheimer has a conversation down by the lake
With Einstein.
with Albert Einstein. And at the time, Strauss is trying to recruit him to come be in charge. Was he at Berkeley? Or
I think at the time he was at Berkeley.
so he was trying to get him to come be ahead of the science department there.
Germany? No. I don't know why I said Germany. Where were they when?
Oh, they were in America.
Do you remember where, though? I don't know why I was thinking Germany.
Well, that's why I think this Berkeley, the college.
Well, that's where Oppenheimer was.
When they had the conversation at the lake, it was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just misunderstood that for some reason.
Because they flip flop back and forth.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and I think that's where the black and white comes in handy, is because like that's a way of
yes.
basically storytelling, but showing, because it's not entirely linear. It's not like portmanteau like Pulp Fiction style, but it's a non-linear story.
it's two linear stories side by side.
That's a good way to describe it.
That's why I think it's like two movies, because they're
They're posturing and setting stuff up for the later half of it at the beginning.
yeah, it's so weird to me. That's why, like I told you, we got done and I went, this movie really just had to be 3 hours.
Well, and it's funny because at first I was like, oh, like 2 hours 15, I think could have gotten it done. And then went home that day, and the more I thought about it, I was like, no, it has to be 3. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because all of the stuff, even showing you he's a womanizer and all of the stuff,
It's necessary.
they give you his humanity because he's being called to cause that he's a communist.
Right.
And that he is not allowed to have security clearance over America anymore because he's a communist.
Right.
And so they show
Even
you
though he never
all-
actually joined any communist party, he was still actively interested in it.
He never joined any communist party. He said, I did agree with some of the ideals
Sure.
of this particular faction
Well,
of communist thought
and
in
it's
America
funny because
before it got off the rails.
Well, as I say, because they even acknowledge that too, that there's, he's like, I agreed with the far left side of the communism, not the Soviet style of communism.
Right.
And they're like, well, what's the difference?
And he explains it in a smart way that I wasn't able to recount
Right.
right now. But there is actually one person in the advisory board in that moment, the oldest guy there that would have the most wisdom,
Right.
agrees
Yeah,
with
and
that
he
statement
even
and that
laughs. He's like,
sentiment,
Well, yeah.
and so they're basically just dismantling
Everything he's worked for.
his credibility because he is a threat to they want to make a hydrogen bomb.
Right. And he does not want to.
And he just says it's a powder keg, like he basically says it's going to create this weird arms race,
Right,
and make it a bigger problem.
It's funny because it's like, obviously, yes, as a nation during war and crisis, you're like, well, we want to be the one that's on top.
Yes.
Sure. But he was kind of pragmatic, and he was looking at it like, look, guys, if we do this, like, that's the end game. Like, at that point,
Yeah,
no matter what, we're fucked.
And so that brings us back to that conversation with Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer at the lake.
Right.
At that moment, they talk about something, and then Albert Einstein walks past Strauss.
Doesn't even make eye contact.
And doesn't make eye contact with him at all. And so at this moment in history, Strauss decides Oppenheimer has turned the scientific community against me.
Right.
Then, as Strauss is trying to push the agenda of the hydrogen bomb in a review committee, Oppenheimer absolutely
Demolishes him.
humiliates him. And so now he creates an enemy out of Strauss. And so Strauss is doing everything that he can to
Well, didn't they say too that like
Oppenheimer over.
he
So
basically held the vendetta for like 6 or 7 years?
I think it was longer.
Yeah, but basically it's like he held on to this for so long, and that when the time was right, he was like, cool, I'm going to ruin this guy's life.
Yeah, so what does he do? He takes this file that has been created by American government, the FBI,
Right.
against Oppenheimer because he has done things that toe the line
Sure.
on the Communist Party. And in this time in history, it was a huge deal.
Right.
And so, they had a big file on him. Strauss gave it to
The FBI and
no, he gave it to that guy that ended up being in the AEC, and he reported it.
yeah.
He reported it
Anonymously.
to the CIA,
right.
and then that started this whirlwind of bullshit.
Well, and then they basically interview him off to the side where no one can see what's happening.
Yeah.
And they tried to fuck him too, because it was like the lawyer that he got they're like, well, you don't have clearance to these files. You can't look at them. And he's like,
Right. Yeah.
Well, how the fuck am I supposed to defend this guy if...
there's 5 guys in the room looking at all these files, and then his lawyer has nothing.
Right. He's got a notepad.
But in those because it's not even really a trial.
No,
it's just an advisory review to take away his security clearance
Right.
and justify taking it away.
Right.
And so they go through it all. They tear his life down. Emily
Yep.
Blunt, is that her name?
Yes. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she did amazingly in it too as his wife. Florence Pugh
Barely in it.
Also-
Amazing.
also did incredibly well.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the biggest keys to like she was a communist,
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Always said it. And
Well, because didn't
she
they meet
was-
at a communist party?
I think they met somewhere at something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like because he would go to stuff and he's like,
Right.
I don't know, but
But he
never,
was just interested in learning.
right.
Like, he wasn't like, oh, I agree with this viewpoint. He's just like, oh, let me see what you guys have to say.
Yeah.
I'll marinate on it, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, and then he also, there was also like issues where they were trying to unionize scientists,
Right.
And that was causing a riff. And
Which,
so,
another actor, Josh Hartnett,
yeah, so he took a long break to
I think
be a
raise his kids,
parent,
yeah.
right? Yeah, so
like,
that's
he's been
awesome.
slowly working his way back, and I think it's great. I think he's an awesome actor.
Yeah, I always
But
dug him.
when he appeared, I remember, like, I looked over and I was like, Josh Hartnett? And you just kind of nodded, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But the reason I was a little confused at first is because usually I feel like he's had a wider diasma, the tooth gap. I don't know.
He's older.
Well, sure, but I didn't. But like, I
his
don't.
head looks larger.
Well, yeah, he's obviously he's gained a little bit of weight.
Well, I just mean like his. I don't know.
But yeah, either way.
But
But I
it's
was like,
him, yeah.
But I was like, oh fuck yeah, just because again, I think he's awesome.
Yeah, Hartnett was really good in it. You mentioned Matt Damon, who played. He was.
General Groves.
Well, he wasn't a general yet.
Yeah.
He hires Oppenheimer to head up
Yes.
the project to make the bomb.
To be the director of it.
And he's like, I'll make general for this and you'll be famous forever.
Right.
And they have
Both are
this
correct.
weird relationship.
Well, because I feel like
he ends up trusting Oppenheimer so much.
I would say their
that,
relationship becomes more of like a respect foundation.
Yeah. And so like that dynamic is very good in the movie. Everybody that played alongside each other in their compartmentalized
It was so good.
way was just, very good. Like what was the guy's name that he met on the train and ended up being lifelong buddies?
Oh, well, he didn't meet him in the train. I thought he met him. Well, so the guy attended his lecture in
That
Denmark?
guy, the guy that ended up being his right hand man,
yeah,
basically.
Which I could be wrong. Is that the guy that played Bruno from like the Santa Claus movies? He was like the head elf. Is that him?
That might be him. That might be. I recognize his face, but he's got way more cheek.
Well, because he's way older now.
Yeah, that could.
I think it might be.
Dude, that probably is him. But he did a really good job.
Again, I don't know if we can say it enough. The casting in this was spectacular.
Yeah, Rami Malek.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was barely in it too. And then
but he was integral.
what the fuck is his name? I always forget. Is it Ansel Elgort, the guy that played young Han Solo?
Yeah, I know
He was-
exactly who you're talking
He
about.
he was like Strauss's advisor.
Yeah, so he was one of the key elements in the takedown of Oppenheimer with Strauss.
Right.
Like,
and then he kind of
knew-
realized at the end that he was like, you're just trying to fuck this guy over because you're petty.
Yes, like, and then Casey Affleck barely appeared, but
Yeah.
was great.
No,
like
amazing. The casting was so good.
Yeah, so the 3 hours, it doesn't feel like other 3-hour movies I've been to.
The only reason
Like-
I would say it did was because, and this is on me. I assumed by the end of the movie was going to be the bomb going off.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that there was going to be more. So that's where I was like, okay, it feels like it's dragging a little. But even still, it flew by. Like, I mean, we both said immediately, we're like, we want to see it again.
yeah, oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's a big thing. It's 3 hours.
Yeah, and I did because I
It
went,
wasted half
oh.
our day.
Yeah, we came out of there. It was like, oh shit, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's such a fantastic movie that
Like,
I
I don't think we can sing its praise high enough. Like, which is funny because we were both kind of like, we didn't want to like it as much as we did.
no. Well, and I don't know. I will give credit too for giving me like that part of history is huge.
Yes.
I don't know a lot about it. It was
I love World War
very
II.
interesting and educational too.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know Oppenheimer. I'll be real.
I did.
I mean, but that's just because I guess I never cared who made the atomic bomb. I just thought we were all savages.
Well, that
You
was
know.
another thing that I really liked too. Is like, they make it, and when they drop it, obviously you've got the people that are all cheering, and then like
Yeah.
he's kind of walking by, and some of the other scientists, they're all kind of having that feeling of like, we just killed so many people. Like
Yeah.
they realize, no, this is on us. Like whether because I think Strauss makes Harry Truman makes the comment where he's like, oh, like I killed those people, like I sent the order.
Yeah.
Which we were.
Dude, yeah.
Because we've made the comment before and we've joked about it that he's a chameleon actor, and he is.
Absolutely.
But like because you Googled it after we saw the movie, you're like, guess who it was? And I was gonna say it as a joke, but I didn't. But you're like, Harry Truman was Gary Oldman,
yes.
and
That sneaky bastard.
yeah, he got us. He got us again.
He's always in that cool role. You're like, man, just like it reminds me of how Tom Cruise was in Tropic Thunder.
Oh
Like,
my god, that's so good.
absolutely brilliant in that little role.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was Tom Cruise. The first time I saw it, I was like, man, I recognize that guy.
Like the voice is there. Yeah, but it
I
looks
didn't
nothing
know.
like him, and
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Dude, he gives him those meaty, hairy fingers.
Yeah, well, like they make him your typical like Hollywood Jew, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
No, but yeah, like I thought that it was really interesting that they tried to kind of essentially downplay what these people were feeling, where it was like, well, you didn't kill them, I sent the order, so it's on me, and it's like, but we built this, like we were the
Right.
ones that created this weapon of mass destruction.
right. And in that moment too, so you realize that, I mean, he already knew, and he did think about the consequences
For sure.
and he actually wanted to be like notified and like talked to before they dropped it.
Right.
They called him after they bombed.
Yeah, they were like, oh, by the way.
Yeah,
Well, didn't he find out because they were like,
He
oh,
knew
hey,
it
turn on the
was-
radio.
He knew it was going to go down.
Right.
And then he tried to get a hold of Groves, which was Matt Damon, and
Wasn't able
couldn't.
to.
And then he gets the call that it happened as
Yeah.
he's hearing it on the radio. And it's like, okay, so they took away, but they were always going to take it away from him. As
Yeah.
soon as it was
Like the autonomy of it.
functional,
Yeah.
it was going to be mechanized and used in
Well, and I
war.
think I think they told him that at one point too. That they're like, once this is good, like you're off this project, we're taking it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he didn't know. It's just, I guess he probably thought, since it was such a scientific achievement and such a
Maybe there'd be a little bit more respect to it.
massively huge decision, that yeah, he would at least get some respect
Right.
in that moment.
Well,
so.
and it's one of those things too that like, obviously hindsight being what it is, you kind of like look at it like, did they necessarily have to drop it on the cities? Could they have dropped it just in the water, just to basically show like, this is what we could do to you?
right.
Like, but they chose to bomb Nagasaki and
Hiroshima.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, and they did it without a moment's thought. They're like, nah, let's do it.
Yeah, it just got done.
Yeah.
And so that hugely successful.
Yes.
Showing this part of history that is just a harrowing part of humanity, and learning how he felt in those moments. And he was trying to stop the advancement of it, and that's why his clearances were going to be stripped and taken away.
Right.
And so that conversation with Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer, which turned Strauss against him, actually ended up being completely irrelevant in regard to science, like,
Well, it was just basically
caring about Strauss.
Yeah, it was really just basically like him saying, "Hey, I think we've set the world on fire. Like we've created something that unfortunately they took the genie out of the bottle."
Well, yeah, and Albert said, when do you remember that time you invited me for a ceremony and you guys gave me an award?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that was for you, all of you, not for
Right.
me. That was, you're taking over.
Right.
And he said the same thing will happen to you one day, and they'll feed you potato salad and say you were great.
Right.
And they have that little tete-a-tete, and he asks him, do you remember the time I came and visited you and asked you about the calculations? Because he went and said, could this reaction based on these calculations
Literally set the
possibly-
world on fire.
Yeah, because
it would just keep spreading.
Yeah, if they lit the atmosphere on fire, it would just spread throughout the whole world, and that was the concern.
Well, yeah, because their calculations, it was near zero that it would happen,
Yes.
but it was still
A chance.
there was a chance that it would have just chain reaction lit the entire atmosphere on fire.
And Einstein's actually pretty funny in the movie, and because
Oh, yeah.
he says, "I don't know, I'm bad at math like you."
Well,
Give it to
I think he
Teller.
makes the comment of like, we both have one thing in common, and that's our disdain for math.
Yeah, and
That's
so so that's pretty funny. He goes, "I don't know how to answer that. Give it to somebody else."
Yeah, but like it's true because Albert Einstein was not great at math, but then when he still fucking hated it,
yeah,
and he's revered as one of the greatest mathematicians in the world.
So anyhow, so that conversation had nothing to do with Strauss. However,
He was so up his own ass that he thought they were talking shit.
But I do believe in that moment, like I told you yesterday, I do believe historically, and I'm going to dig more into it because it's not a theory. These things are known.
Right.
But I think that at that moment, Albert Einstein realized that Strauss is the one
That's trying to
that has Oppenheimer here.
right,
And wants
kind of spearheading it.
to create these warheads.
Right.
And wants to be the one that pushed the agenda.
Well,
because he wants to be a politician.
Right.
And he was a shoe salesman. And I really think
Wants to make a
Strauss
name for himself. And
he was never comfortable with the idea that he came from humble beginnings. So he was always trying to do something to be bigger than it, and
which is funny because it's like, if you come from humble beginnings and you want to do better, use that use that as motivation of like, I came from something humble, I'm going to be something great.
yeah,
Do that, but don't do it in a way that's like, all right, you're kind of being a fucking weirdo about this and trying to destroy lives.
power just does things to people that
is true.
You can't, But anyhow, the movie, fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, another really cool thing that I liked that we were talking about the other day was the sound in it. So like,
Yes,
they did explosions the right way. So
Yeah.
you see the explosion, a couple seconds later, then you hear it because the
Right.
sound travels. And I was like, oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, no, they really, top to bottom, the movie nailed it.
What would you give it out of 10 on a first watch?
Dude, I mean, I hate to say 10, but like, for me, it has damn near everything. The acting is perfect.
Yep.
The visuals are perfect.
Yep. The sound is perfect.
The execution of for me, it's a 10.
I would agree.
I wanted to see it right away.
Right.
Again, and that's very fucking rare.
Yeah. And like, obviously, nothing is ever going to be perfect. But like in this case, to me, at least right now, and maybe it's just because it hasn't happened in a while, but to me, this is a damn near perfect film because there hasn't been anything this good in a while.
Not that I can
Not
recount.
not on this level, at least. Like, I'm not saying there hasn't been good things lately, but like this one just sets itself apart.
Yes. And that's something that we kind of defined this week. I don't remember what movies we were talking about in context, but you said something, and I'm like, it's not good.
Oh, we were talking about Inception because we were talking about other Christopher Nolan films.
That's right. I personally, for
I
me,
like it. It's fun, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but that one, and then I used
We
something
both hated
stupid.
Dunkirk.
Yeah,
We couldn't finish it.
I couldn't Dunkirk, but we devolved for digress or
Yeah.
So,
Anyways.
that is Oppenheimer.
So good.
And I just can't say enough that if you have a chance to go see it in the theaters,
Do
go
it.
see it in the theaters. It is
Absolutely.
a more dynamic presentation than you'll ever get at home, unless, like you said, you have a personal theater.
You're right. No,
And so
good.
With that said, we're going to move into Barbie.
Which we saw the following day.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Being yesterday.
went back-to-back days to have a good, fresh memory of these two movies side by side.
It's funny because we were going to see them both in the same day, and we're like, nah.
Yeah, it just was too much.
Yeah.
I remembered to bring my little nerd notebook to the theater with me in this one, and it's really hard to write in the dark. That's what I'll say about that.
Yep.
But the first thing that I saw or wrote down, and that was pretty immediately, I think 2 minutes into the movie,
If that.
I write down satire and put a little heart.
This movie's full of it, and it's so good.
It's not just full of it. It is top to bottom a satirical
Yeah.
delight.
Which, like,
Like,
spoiler if you're going to go see it, but the movie literally opens with, and as much as I don't care for Stanley Kubrick, it opens with a 2001 A Space Odyssey reference, which was hilarious.
yeah.
Like, all the little girls with the dolls, and then just Margot Robbie, giant Barbie, like, it was amazing.
Yeah, the beginning of the movie, yeah, you go, oh, okay.
You're like, okay, so this is what we're getting into.
Okay,
Perfect.
cool.
That movie's hilarious.
It is. It's very, very, very funny. And so, as much as there was a coach speech by Nolan to get $100 million budget on Oppenheimer, this movie cost $128 to $145 million. And I would be willing to bet $50 million of it at least is tied up in Gosling and Robbie.
It wouldn't surprise me just
which
because they're bigger
is
names.
Fine.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't think of a better two casts
No, they were perfect.
for those parts.
Like, I was saying this to you yesterday after we'd seen the movie. Like, I like Ryan Gosling as an actor. I think he is really good.
Yeah.
I really like when he does absolutely stupid roles. I think he absolutely shines.
He really crushed it.
He's great in Blade Runner
Oh yeah.
2049.
Yeah.
I really like him in that movie The Nice Guys, even though I don't love that movie.
That's funny with Russell Crowe.
Yeah, like, that
Where
movie's
they're
great.
Like, are they
Like
private
the seven,
detectives
yeah,
or whatever?
basically.
Yeah.
But like, I like that movie a lot. But that's more. It's a goofy role, but it's still a serious film, even though it's a comedy.
No, yeah. That
then you
movie's
get-
super vulgar, by the
But
way.
yeah,
Like,
but then you get Ken, and it's just
does
balls to the wall.
anybody notice how many times Aaron has been waving his hand today because he's got a palm tattoo now?
It's the first time. Chill.
We're gonna watch this video again.
Yeah.
Show him your palm tattoo. Show him closer. Yeah.
Cool. No, but like, as Ken, absolutely stupid, absolutely perfect. You good?
Yeah, the microphone ate my ear.
Oh. All right.
Yeah, he did perfectly.
Like the bleach blonde hair. His fur coat to me is the funniest fucking thing.
Just everything. Like, okay.
When he gets all excited, men rule the real world.
Yeah, like that. Like that's something I wrote. It's fully immersive.
Mm-hmm.
They bring you into the Barbie world, and you feel like a Barbie girl.
Yeah. I was actually kind of like, they had a remix of it, but I was surprised they didn't play that song by Aqua.
I thought it would show up at some point.
It might have in the credits like later, but we didn't stay for the entire credits.
Yeah, and if there's an after credit scene, I'll see it later. But like what I mean by fully immersive is they're not conscious of anything other than their designation that's given to them, like on the box.
Right.
And
because
so
it's Beach Ken.
Yeah, so he's Beach Ken, and
Which-
he's like,
That joke is so good. Where it's just like, I'm gonna beat you off right now.
Yeah,
I'll beat you off.
So I wrote that down because I don't know if they intentionally did it, but I think Barbie kind of came out around the era of some of the Archie comics still going on.
Okay.
And there's that one Archie comics cover
I
where
had to beat off 3 guys
Yeah.
to save you, Betty or whatever her name
yeah,
is.
so he's like, I beat off 3 guys to get to you, and then these guys are all beaching each other off. He's like,
Yeah.
I'll beat you off harder.
And it's like, oh, we're gonna have a beach off, and it's like, you guys can't have a beach off without me. I'm gonna beat both you. Or it's like, I'm gonna beach both y'all off.
Yeah, it's so like, so it's laced with a bunch of adult
Yes.
humor, which is great because it still has things for kids. Kids can be entertained by
To
it.
quote Barbie, I feel like there's an entendre, and it seems like it's double.
because yeah, that's when she actually gets out to the real world,
which is
and,
just Venice Beach.
yeah, and men are starting to like ogle her.
Yeah.
and she doesn't get it because she's
Barbie.
Barbie and from Barbie world where
Right.
they don't do that.
Well,
they
because
don't-
everything's run by women and everything. It's a utopia.
yeah, and so but that's funny because almost right after that scene where she's getting ogled and says that a guy says something to her and she's like, "Well, I don't have a vagina."
Oh, yeah.
And then she's like, "He doesn't have a penis," and he's like, "I have a penis."
He's like, he goes, I got all the genitals.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, he's like, "Yeah." Oh, that's what she says. We don't have genitals, and he's
Yeah.
like, "He's like, I got all the genitals," and he.
But it's so funny because it's like, he's such a doofus and like, not self-conscious, but like, trying to think of the right word, but like, he's so just like, no, it's just, no, like, I got him. It's cool. Like,
he's okay. Two things are going on with him. He's overly self-aware,
yes.
and he's literally only driven by
Barbie.
Barbie liking him, and
Well,
specifically that Barbie.
'cause
And
how does
it starts in the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, it's
where,
like every day for Barbie's a great day. Every day for Ken is a great day if Barbie notices him.
yeah, only if Barbie looks at him.
Yeah.
and you're like, okay.
You're just,
And so
Hi, Barbie.
that theme, is prevailing throughout, and Barbie goes. Things start going wrong.
right. Well, because she's like, you guys ever think about death?
Yeah,
And that's what sets it off.
and so which the story is really well done.
It is.
It's really well done in this movie, and so like you realize that the issue is that the person playing with the Barbie in the real world is creating these scenarios for Barbie, and so they're applying to Barbie world,
Right.
which is really cool.
Right. Which, I mean, we all knew it was going to be who it was.
Yeah,
It wasn't, yeah.
and so well, you see the daughter, and then you see the mom who works at
Barbie.
fucking Mattel
Yeah.
at the desk.
Well, it's like, but
You
like
know.
even in those flashbacks, you're like, it's the mom.
Yeah. So that's going on, and so Barbie, like, she encounters thoughts of death, cellulite, and
Flat feet.
and flat feet, and so she starts freaking out.
Yes.
And realizes that, oh my god, I got to go talk to Weird Barbie.
Which, like, you already know what to expect with Weird Barbie because it's like, there's always like oh yeah, like this is the Barbie that your mom didn't care if you cut the hair on or colored on.
Right. And so
The casting for that though was Kate McKinnon.
she's great.
Perfect for Weird Barbie.
Oh, she's
like
so-
could not be a better cast.
So great. She's just quirky in
And weird.
absolutely the right way for that part.
Yes.
So
Oh, and then the fucking dog just went bark.
and even like there's so many, they get so many things right because they poke fun at Barbie the whole time,
Yes.
basically, about how it was supposed to be a cultural revolution that empowered women,
And it really just kind of
and
did nothing for
it
that.
did the opposite. And then Barbie still believes that they are doing good things for women, and then when she gets to the real world
and realizes they're not.
she gets torn down
By a kid.
by a teenager, a tween. So was that
Yeah.
12?
Yeah, sure.
But she gets torn down by the tween, and I also made a note in here, but at some point, like, to me, this story, it had a very it paralleled a lot of what Isaac Asimov does with robots to me, like with the consciousness, like a Barbie having consciousness. There's a lot
Because they're
like
essentially just an object,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, because they're toys.
Yeah, and so like I had a lot of Asimov vibes watching it, which was cool because I thought it was a really intellectual way to approach a movie about a toy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But-
I have genitals was a note.
Yeah, but I like to, as they're in the real world, Ryan Gosling becomes more and more enthralled with the idea of patriarchy
Yeah,
and horses.
So I actually made a little note about that because they execute that. I don't know if it like rang to you this way when they did that, but so they're in the real world. They're in Venice Beach, and a lady asks Ryan Gosling for the time.
Well, that's when they're at the school, but yes.
Yes, and so whatever city that's in,
Yeah.
and so it like
He gets all
blows
excited.
his mind that like
Someone needs him.
and asked him for help, and then he ends up in a library, and they
Well, he starts-
show him like absorbing things about manhood it's
In
like
the worst way.
like a Matrix learning montage style.
Yeah.
and he's just looking at horses, cars,
Cowboys.
and so,
Everything like man.
Yeah, and
But then he
so-
goes to like businesses and he sees like all the men are the corporate leaders and basically telling women like, oh, like not now. And he just like standing there like,
Yeah, and he's trying to get jobs, and it's
he's like, I'd like to be part of the patriarchy. They're like, well, we only hire people with MBAs. He's like, but I'm a man. And they're like, okay. And he's like, well, shouldn't that be enough? Like, what do you guys? I don't remember how he asks, but the guy's like, no, we're just better at hiding it now.
yeah, because he said all the women are in charge or something. I don't know, but it was very funny because like he's just a tool.
Well, yeah, but like, what's funny about that too is like people are like that still. Where like when he's talking to the doctor and he's like, "Oh, like I want to be a doctor," and she's like, "Well, you don't know. You have to go to medical school." He's like, "But I'm a man." He goes, "No," and he goes, "Can I speak to a doctor?" She goes, "You are."
Yeah, and then he goes to find another doctor.
Yeah,
He's like, but so yeah, so he gets all these ideals about manhood, and he brings them back to Barbie world. Like he ditches Barbie. Barbie gets arrested,
right,
by the Mattel secret police,
right,
and they're gonna take her back to the Mattel headquarters and try to put her ass back in the box.
Yep, brainwash her ass.
Yeah, like so. Ken goes back on his journey,
Which
and actually,
the way they go back and forth between the real world and Barbie Land,
I was
hilarious.
Because you talked about that. Is that where that's where they do what you were saying about 2D?
Yeah, like there's a couple
or,
points where it's like the car flips, and then when they land, it does like a little like 2D animated like smoke cloud.
Yeah.
And it works so well.
It's because it's funny.
Yeah. Which before we go any further, I feel like
Michael
we should.
Cera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alan.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, amazing.
So yeah. So in the Barbie world, there are
All these different Kens.
kinds of iterations of Ken, and then they show
And Barbie,
Alan,
and there's
he's
only
like,
one of Alan.
and I'm the only one.
Yep.
And it's Michael Cera, and it's just hilarious.
It couldn't be better.
Like you're like, well, of course.
And then it like, I don't remember what the context was. Oh, like Margot Robbie, you know, she's having like she's breaking down. She's all upset. She's like, oh, like I just feel like I'm not strong or like I'm not pretty. And then the narrator cuts in and she's like, you know, note to the directors, like if you're having Margot Robbie say this in a movie, it kind of falls on the flat ears because
Yeah, it
Margot
says,
Robbie is
when you cast
beautiful.
Margot Robbie as Barbie, this statement does not apply,
Right.
Or something like that, because it's like she's inherently beautiful no matter what. Like,
exactly
you could throw acid at her face and she would still come out clean.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
But oh no, well, and wasn't Helen Mirren the narrator?
I think so. I
Pretty
can
sure.
picture the lady. I mean, she has that very distinctive British voice.
Yeah.
And she did a great job at narrating.
And then I always forget if it's Rhea or Rita. Is that Danny DeVito's wife?
Oh,
Rhea
yeah,
Perlman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Ruth, excuse me, Ruth Handler,
Yes.
which was the original creator of the Barbie, was they cast Danny DeVito's wife in that part, which she did great.
I haven't seen her in anything in a long time.
I mean, I don't imagine that either of them really have to act for money. I would say they do
I
it
feel
out
like
of
Danny DeVito just does Always
fun.
Sunny. Yeah, because it's hilarious and he likes to have fun.
yeah. So which is a great position to be in.
Well, for sure.
But yeah, so she did really good in her limited role there.
Well, and another thing you had said too was the fact that Mattel was willing to like put their brand and their name on the line for this movie, like shows that they believed in it. And the movie is amazing.
Yeah, I
Like-
just think it is such a good approach to, you know, in the past you get the movies. There's Barbie movies. I've
Sure.
never seen a single one of those.
Neither have I.
But I mentioned G.I. Joe in that context, where it would be so interesting to see a G.I. Joe type movie like this.
Or Transformers.
Or yeah, any other movie where it's like, don't
He-Man.
make it a giant action movie.
No.
Make it like a
Make it goofy like it should be.
funny like movie,
Yeah. Well,
you
because
know?
like, well, and that's the problem too. Is it's like, you know, given the fact that now there are Transformers and GI Joe movies, they for sure couldn't do it. He-Man might be able to get away with it because He-Man is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, if you put that level of like consciousness with character conflict in the real world, I
Right.
think He-Man would be very funny.
Right. But
You know,
it's one of those where like it could be dangerous to where it's like, oh well, now it just feels like it's copying Barbie and it's not as good.
yeah, I think there's something to be had in this style, though. I think
Yes.
that there is somewhere to use this as like a template
Oh, for sure.
to do other movies in this vein.
Well,
so
I
that's
just
like,
I also love too like how unaware they are with everything because obviously in Barbie Land everything's different. So like when they first come to Venice Beach and they get arrested, when they're doing their mug shots, they're all smiling for him, like, oh, hey. Like,
yeah, and then so back on track. Ken goes back.
yes.
He brings his new ideals of manhood
Patriarchy.
back and patriarchy, and basically
So
brainwashes
stupid.
all the Barbies.
Into being housewives, and
Yeah, so that by the time Barbie escapes and gets back to Barbie Land herself,
it's all different.
it's all fucked up.
Yeah.
And they're about to vote to like make Ken president.
Right.
You know. And,
well, and then also too, but then he's got the fur coat, he's got the headband, sunglasses. Like he just becomes more of a douche.
he bros out.
Yes.
Like on the most.
He gets a Hummer.
He's like Jake Paul on steroids.
Oh my, yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it.
Like it's like, oh, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's so good with how they do it. Cause like,
Yeah.
again, the entire time they understand the
And
satire of it.
He's wearing the Karate Kid shoes.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh, and then his fucking fanny pack with Metallica writing that says Ken. Like, it couldn't be more on brand for like.
Yeah.
This is something your typical Tool would wear.
Yeah. Oh, and then he adds the ranch swing doors with like,
Oh my God.
welcome
Yes.
to Kendom.
Yeah, like the
and-
saloon doors. Yeah.
It's like, oh man, it's that's like full immersion.
Yeah.
They go over the top.
Well, also too, I was gonna
Everything
say
is there.
the set design too, fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Like-
just. So this movie was great.
It was
you know?
amazing.
It's a comedy.
The jokes were hilarious.
It's got great visuals.
Yeah, great cast.
Yep. And I even like the one guy. Was that the guy that played Shang-Chi?
Yeah, Simu Liu.
Okay. I was like, I swear it's him.
Yeah,
But I just
100% it is.
I was having such a hard time like putting a serious face on him because
Yeah.
of his role in that movie. And
No, yeah, it's 100% him, and
yeah,
he
so
did
he's-
fantastic.
Yeah, and he's Beach Ken's nemesis in it, and so it's just
Also known as Ken.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what was it? Matchbox 20? Was that the song that they were singing?
oh yeah.
I wanna push you around, but it's like the
And they're-
camera zooms out and they're all just right there. Like that was so good.
Which is very, very funny because that moment in the movie is when the women are the Barbies are taking back
Yes.
control, and they're like,
But it just
to-
shows like how fragile all of their egos are.
Oh yeah,
But like
And-
that was perfect.
yeah, that movie is hilarious.
Like-
It's hilarious.
I would see that
it
again, too.
I just that was, but it's not the same as
No.
Oppenheimer because
Well,
I know that if I
Oppenheimer-
watch Barbie here at my house,
You'll get the same result.
I'm still gonna laugh and stuff.
Right. Oppenheimer, as much as I would like to watch it just at home, like in the comfort of my own home,
Sure.
it's never going to be the same as watching it in a theater with the visuals, the sound, the immersion, like all of that combined. Like I said, to me, that is a cinematic experience.
Yeah, I think that's a movie that theaters will bring back
I
time
hope
to
so.
time because it's such an impactful film.
I
to
really
see
hope so, 'cause, like-
in a theater. And actually, you know what?
They do it with Avatar all the time, and I don't think Avatar's all that great. It's okay.
You know, yeah,
Visually, yes, it's great.
Yeah.
I'll give it that.
the story
Story-wise,
is unique.
and not well. The first one, I didn't see the second one, so I
haven't-
can't say.
I have not seen the second one.
For the same reason, it's like 3.5 hours. But I like the first one. I saw it twice in theaters. It's not terrible, but isn't it basically just like Dances with Wolves or Pocahontas? Like that's essentially what the story boils down to. Kinda. Either way,
Sure.
Visually, that movie is a marvel.
Yeah.
It is a masterpiece. Oppenheimer, start to finish, though, holy shit.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I agree. And Barbie, I would give it I'd give it
at
a
least
strong, a strong 8.
Yeah.
You know, depending on if you intend to take
At
your
face value.
kids to it.
Your kids hated it, didn't they?
Well, my kids did not like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they for them, but I can see because you know they're both in a transition,
Right.
As far as Maya or my daughter, I don't say her name, but my daughter really doesn't like movies.
Yeah.
Honestly, she really doesn't.
Which is weird because with you as her father, all you do is watch movies.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's why she doesn't like.
Well, she'll learn.
Like later on, she'll probably be like, "Man, my dad was showing me some cool stuff when I was
Yeah.
a kid." But my son loves movies, and so like I think there would be a fair chance of him liking Oppenheimer
As he's older.
more now.
Oh, okay.
More than he liked Barbie because it's very interesting. and it's compelling, and it
Well-
has the sounds. He's huge about that ASMR crap.
Oh,
like
yeah.
this movie
Well, I'm trying-
triggers that.
I'm trying to think too. I feel like World War II is taught more in high school, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, they might generically talk about it because my kids both know about like Adolf
Well,
Hitler and that stuff.
sure.
So
But I was gonna say because like I was always fascinated with World War II because I thought it was super interesting. But like,
yeah,
if there's any level of like interest that anyone has with that, this movie is so good.
yeah. It really, 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 really dives into it and just shows you a lot. You
Yeah.
know, things you might not have known. And honestly, like you don't realize it, or I didn't realize it because I haven't delved that far into what was going on. But you know, Germany was ahead of us.
Yeah.
In the arms race, and they had a very good chance of
They were for a long time.
being the one that had the bomb to drop.
Yeah.
If not for Adolf Hitler, because the chief scientist with the brain to pull it off was Heisenberg,
Right.
Jewish.
Yep.
And so that was never going to work. for
Wasn't
Hitler?
And I could be wrong on this because I know like there's the game series Wolfenstein, and it's like as if, you know, Germany won World War II.
Okay.
But legitimately, wasn't there a thing that like I'm trying to remember how to phrase it, but like basically it was like part of why they didn't succeed as much is because like they tried to do so like outlandish things that they were like, oh well, what if we did this, or like what if we did that, and they just kind of like put the resources in the wrong area.
Well, I suppose possibly what you're saying is correct. I think that what happened is that he spread Germany too thin, and they were fighting the war on way too many fronts. They were trying to go for world domination,
Right.
and didn't really have the roots anywhere.
Well, like I'm saying, like for like their science division, or like let's say like they're like industrial, where it'd be like it's like okay, we're making a tank, but then it was oh, but what if we made a tank that like in this instance, like oh, like what if we made a tank that, you know, could shoot fire as well? It's like was that a thing, or am I just misremembering? Where like
I don't.
they tried to like
honestly-
do so many weird things that it was like didn't really help them.
I don't honestly know. I mean, that probably could be true. I feel like they are the ones that created mustard gas.
That wouldn't surprise me. Which isn't that
And they're
banned by the Geneva Convention at this point? Like every country unanimously has been like, you cannot use mustard gas in chemical warfare.
I think that's probably true. It should be true if it's not. But if you look at like a lot of the Golden Age comic books of the time, and you see how they are depicted, even if Germany didn't have those things going on, I would say that the propaganda of the time made us believe that they were going on, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of like evil scientist covers
Right.
and menacing torture device covers,
Right.
and they have these like little green people basically that are the merchants of death
Right.
for Hitler. He's
Well,
represented on many covers,
and then let's be real too, their beliefs and their thought process was ridiculous. Like, and Jojo Rabbit does a great job at portraying how
Oh, yeah.
fucking ridiculous some of it was.
Yeah.
Because it was true. Like they got told these things, and you're like, well, now how would you believe this?
yeah, how does your mind conceive the truth in that statement?
Right. Like
okay.
any sane, rational person would read that and go, okay.
Yeah, which is kind of what happened to Jojo Rabbit's Another Movie Another Day.
It's
'cause
so good.
That movie's really great too.
Yeah, for different reasons again.
But that's another satire,
It is.
which is beautifully done.
Absolutely. Well, and like,
Like-
I don't remember the exact phrasing, but people were kind of they were, when the movie was coming out, they were a little upset with Taika Waititi, the director, and they're like, why are you trying to like portray Hitler in like such a comedic light? And his response was, because he should be made fun of.
Well, yeah,
Like-
the fact
The man is a joke.
not only should he be made fun of, but the people of the time that
That
were allowed
followed him?
to be persuaded by these things,
Yeah.
deserve their spotlight as stupid.
Right. And it's like, because I think he even says too, he's like, I'm not trying to like diminish what happened or make light of it. I'm trying to poke fun at the fact that they believed this.
Right.
Like they thought, oh yeah, like the Jewish people are actual devils and they're going to suck your blood and do this. It's like, who the fuck would think this?
Yeah, that's like believing gremlins are real.
Gremlins aren't real?
I know.
Gizmo?
I know. You thought Spielberg really had that nailed.
Right?
Is that Spielberg?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if it's not,
I don't know.
whoever. But yeah, so anyhow, 2 movies, totally opposite end of the spectrum in Barbie and in
Both
Oppenheimer.
fantastic. Even with Barbie, I would say an original film.
Absolutely,
Like-
absolutely. And I guess that's something I didn't really talk about, but the way that they used advertising in there was
so good.
so good. But it was also so subtle.
Well,
Like if
right.
you're not paying attention, like she was carrying around a Chanel purse more towards the end of
Right.
it, and there were other things that were kind of laid in there.
Well,
like
again, the
that.
Hummer. Like,
Yeah,
Not to
like-
say that that's like advertising, but like that's
But
to me
it-
like that's the dichotomy of like that's a man car. Like
Yes.
your typical bro's gonna be like, let me get that Hummer. Like let me get the truck Hummer.
But I guess that's what I'm saying is they did a good job because you know that Hummer obviously gave them money
Well, sure.
to have it in there. And so it was not in a way that you're like, I'm being advertised to.
Right.
It was just like, this is what would happen.
Right.
You know? And, and we don't even give any credit to, I forget her name, but the girl who was on that TV show.
America
Yeah.
Ferrera.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mom in it.
Yeah, the mom.
She was on Ugly Betty.
She did. That's what it was
I never
called.
watched it.
It was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I
was
mean, I like
pretty
her as
good.
an actress.
I watched like the first two seasons or whatever, but it was pretty funny. But anyway, she did good too.
Yeah. No, like everyone in that movie was good. Like
Oh, Will Ferrell.
I'd say, much as I don't care for him, he was fine. He was exactly what I expected. But
Well, yeah, for me, Will Ferrell always does a lot better in a very like
Limited.
minimal,
yeah, well, I mean,
funny role kind of captured.
for lack of a better term, like I was saying to you yesterday, to me, he's Lord Business from the Lego Movie, but just in a real world,
Yeah,
real
that's-
world scenario.
That's essentially true. It's like the reverse of Lego Movie where he's the one
Which
character in a toy.
there was a quote in there that like it was so random, but I thought it was hilarious. Where like he's talking to Barbie and he's like, "Oh, like we've had a woman CEO before, like 10 years ago, and then there was one before that, so at least two." And he goes, "Plus some of my best friends are Jewish," and it's like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, like how does that establish your feminist movement
But I just-
campaign?
It was
weird.
so random, but I was like, "Oh, that's really good."
But yeah, very good movies.
Yeah, I would recommend both.
Both worth seeing, and I think another thing, both of these, I think what 10:30 and 11 o'clock, we went to see them, and there was a good chunk of people in both of them.
Yeah.
And so that's cool to me. Like, I would love to see theaters start selling out again.
Yeah.
Because then it'll give studios and producers confidence to just
Make
start
movies like
churning
this.
out more movies. And instead of, because I think what's happening now is they're looking at, okay, we have IP that's established and we made this much on the last time we did that.
Right.
Let's just stay in that lane and do that instead of.
Well, because we're comfortable, it works, we know it's going to make money.
Right.
Like-
Whereas in the past, prior to COVID, those movies still existed, but they would be in a portfolio of other stuff that
Right.
the studio's working on too.
Right.
And taking chances with. And so I hope movies start selling better in the box office.
I hope so, because again, like I would love to get more movies like Oppenheimer, even like Barbie. Like I want more movies that make it more
Fun.
enjoyable. Yeah, make it more enjoyable and fun to go to a theater. Not to say that movies haven't been doing that, but like I haven't been as inclined to rush out to see certain movies lately, just because I'm like,
Yeah, I'll see it when I see it.
Exactly.
That's and it's, and the theater, it can be an experience.
sure,
And if you go to, like, I'm not the biggest people person, but if you do go to like a packed theater and there's an energy about it,
Right.
and you feel the people kind of feeling that movie the way you're feeling it, and you're
Yeah.
all together in that moment, it's a lot like going to a concert.
Yeah, or an
and
event.
just being in a small venue.
yeah.
Or
It
any
has that
type-
feeling of like intimacy with everyone around you.
Yeah, so I like that context of people.
Yeah.
And it's a short engagement, and I don't. The good thing is you don't talk to anybody. My like I'm good with people as long as we don't gotta talk.
Yeah,
Like,
because I know I'm going to say some stuff that gets me in trouble.
I just don't. Yeah, I'm just not. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But overall, yeah, both are absolutely worth going to watch for sure if you can. Oppenheimer in the theaters.
Yep.
Barbie, if you can, yeah, go see it in theaters.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd say go
it's still
see
fun.
Go see them both, and go see them now. And Derek, if you watch this podcast today, that's your fault for getting spoiled.
Well, I told him to watch it after he sees Oppenheimer, but same difference.
Yeah.
Cool.
Peace.
Bye.